This is Let's Talk Teens, a parenting podcast sharing tips on raising amazing teenagers. We are both certified life coaches that have worked with teenagers as coaches, mentors, and teachers. We are sharing what we have found to work best when dealing with teens and tough issues.
This is Let's Talk Teens with Abbi and Cheree, episode 24, Your Teen and Food.
Cheree, I wanted to do an episode where we talk about food and fitness when it comes to teenagers because my experience has been that this is a time of heightened body awareness, which is totally part of a teen's brain development, right? They're all of a sudden aware of their body, and their body is kind of new to them because all of a sudden it's their adult body, or maybe even kind of in between to their adult body, right? With puberty. And I just remember my students like being obsessed with fitness and myself too. Like my fitness journey really started in high school. And so I thought, you know what? Let's talk about this for a minute so that parents can have some information about what's healthy, what's not. How do I help my teen make healthier choices? Because I feel like that comes up often. And for our parents listening, my first thought for you when it comes to thinking about your teen, and maybe you're worried that they're going to the gym too much. Maybe you're worried about their diet, or maybe it's too extreme. Maybe you feel like they're not taking their health seriously enough, right? You can be on all sides of this scale. My first idea for you is to just remember and put yourself back into the shoes of being a teenager again. And just remember how important like your body was to you. And we still are so body conscious, but definitely we grow out of that and we mature a little bit as we step into adulthood because we have better self-esteem and we're more just developed even mentally, right? So we have a better concept of ourself and our body. But for teens, this is huge. And I just want you to know it is totally normal that your teen wants to work out all the time. It is totally normal that your teen has probably told you that they now have some dietary restriction or some way of life that they're going to be living when it comes to their health. That is so new and is throwing you through a loop. And that is normal. I remember my students, you couldn't even get them out of bed for anything except for I would have teen boys and teen girls tell me, "Oh, Mrs. Winslow, I get up at 5 a.m. I go to the gym for an hour. I go to school." They typically had a period that was like body development or gym or social dance or something physical at school. And then they would tell me something after school, like whether they went to the gym again or whether they were on the track team, right? And so if you are feeling like, oh my gosh, my teen, like all they want to do is work out. All they want to do is, stress about their outfit or what they're eating and all this stuff. It's actually really, really normal.
Also, I think we need to look at the flip side of that other side of the pendulum swing because it seems like it's an extreme. So it's either they want to work out all the time or they don't at all and they don't care at all about food. There's not a lot of in between. And I think we just have to remember this is the time where there's so much contrast and so much learning and so much growing to help them figure out what they want and what they don't want. And again, that importance of contrast. And I think as parents, we do kind of over worry about their extremes, whether it's always going to the gym or never going to the gym. And remembering it's part of their process of learning and figuring out. And sometimes they need those extremes to help them see the contrast or to find that middle ground.
Yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I've had parents, right, come to me and say, I just wish my teen, they need to eat better. They need to take their health seriously, right? And you just have to put yourself back into that spot of being a teen when guess what? You can eat whatever you want and you don't feel gross like you do as an adult, right? And so they're having a little bit of a different experience than we are as adults looking back. So it's important to put yourself back in that part of being a teenager and having this be so important and just something that they're figuring out. Now, what you can do about it is that you can model good food behaviors at home. And I don't mean that you guys have to be eating spinach salads and chicken every night, right? We want to actually model what does it look like to have a comprehensive diet that includes fun food and healthy food, and that we have this healthy relationship with food. And that is modeled best in our home. right? When we don't freak out that we've had a treat, but we also try to eat healthy. So, Cheree, what are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that healthy balance is so good. And I really think being cautious of fear around food, and I think we can go so extreme with that. And I'm all about being healthy. I'm all about eating healthy and taking care of my body now. But I think, especially when I was raising my teens, they didn't see things the same way I did. They weren't ready for that yet. They didn't know or understand the importance. And letting them have their experiences and not fear food. I mean, I think the fear and sometimes just the thoughts we put with food are actually what cause so much problems for our teens. So I like that modeling and also not overly getting concerned, but teaching them why it's important to eat healthy or teaching them what health looks like and what is healthy, but really trying to watch out for that fear narrative.
You stole that right out of my mouth, Cherie. That was my next idea that I had here is yeah, don't make your decisions or your comments to your children and your teens about food. Like don't come from fear. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, where I still struggle with this as an adult is I have really strong ideas about energy drinks. I personally hate them. I think they're awful. I think, just so I could go on my soapbox, right? My
Oh, I'd be
husband
right there with you, Abby, right there with
it's
you.
it's me and Cherie against the world here, guys. But my husband, he loves them. He loves them. And so I've really had to come to terms with the reality of I don't want to be controlling. I don't want to take that away from him. And I've also had to take a step back and go, I'm not him. And even though I've told him, right, my whole soapbox and how I wish, you wouldn't drink these, I finally have come to the point that I'm like, you know what? They're not that bad, right? Like I've been able to get a grip and be like, hey, it's not the end of the world. And also, I don't know if I want to pick that as like a battle, right? So I've moved from, oh, this used to really bug me to now I'm like, hey, you know what? It's all right. And so maybe your teen loves those energy drinks as well, right? And so as a mom, I would suggest coming in there and not doing what I would like to do, right? Of going, don't you know how bad those are? They can make your heart race, blah, 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 like the whole thing. And just come in and say, hey, listen, I know you love your energy drinks. Let's cap it at two a day. Okay. Like I like really like set boundaries where it matters to you, but also try to let them exercise and have that freedom of food and choice without us trying to control it out of fear, but instead coming in with boundaries that we feel like can be really reasonable when it comes to food and not ever trying to create food insecurities because I feel like what can really backfire with a teenager. And now instead they feel like they have to sneak it from you or that there's a lot of judgment or shame there instead of just acknowledging, hey, this isn't what I would necessarily choose for me to eat or drink. But, if it's safe, legal, okay, I'm going to have some healthy parameters around this.
I love when you said choose. Like, this isn't what I'm going to choose, or this is what they're going to choose. I think that's the most important thing is that they have choice in it. And again, I'm all about, helping them learn and find out, the benefits or the side effects of something and helping them maybe ask questions of like, why do I want this energy or drink or why, you know, or how do I feel when I drink this and really clue into their body. But we ultimately want them to choose. And I think that's the important thing because you're so right. You know what? They're going to choose it anyway, and then they're just going to hide it from you. And then it just becomes a problem. And so, wouldn't you rather that you're a safe place and we're not shaming them for what they choose to drink and eat?
There might be some extremes out there, and I just want it like clear that I would rather pick the fight with not having my child like drink alcohol underage, right? Like that is a battle worth having. Now, the energy drink one, or oh, I just feel like they eat Doritos all day, or fill in their vice. I don't know if that's the battle worth having, right? But you got to decide that as a parent. And I really try to save my battles, my really strong boundaries for things that there's no budging on, right? Such as like drinking underage. Now, the last thing to touch on, and Cherie, you were right there at this, is that we want to be sure that we are building habits that create a love of fitness and health and our bodies and not of self-loathing. So make, maybe going on a walk as a family or cooking together as a family, make that a joyful experience, right? And not making that a really rough or shame or scary experience. And where I'm thinking about this is I was an extremely picky eater as a kid, like extremely. But I was so blessed and so lucky that my mother was an extremely picky eater as a youth as well. So she had experienced a different generation's thought of you sit at this table and you eat everything on your plate and you can't leave until you've eaten it, right? And her fear and panic around, oh my gosh, how am I going to eat this? Or I don't know if I literally can, right? Like her really rough experience with that blessed me because then as a mom, she didn't put that pressure on me. If I didn't like something, that's okay. I didn't have to eat it. Or it was not a big deal that I was a picky eater, right? My parents made easy accommodations like Cheree, how silly is this? Like in the macaroni and cheese, they'd pull out some noodles for me that didn't have cheese. I would literally eat like the plain noodles, but then the rest of the kids would have the rest of the mac, and it didn't have to be a big deal. And I feel like that way food didn't become scary to me. That way food wasn't, oh my gosh, this is going to get shoved down my throat if I don't like this, or I have to try this and I'm worried about, can I even swallow it, right? Like putting myself back in that brain and guess what? I really grew out of that. And so I think if we establish habits, maybe you have a really picky eater. Maybe you're worried about your teens' junk food like addiction that you feel like they've got going on. Just keep making family dinner, going on family walks, going to play pickleball on the weekends. Like, make that a really fun, joyful experience and just trust that those building blocks of a healthy life are in place, right? And we put in those little pieces and we trust them that at some point in their life they're going to pick those up.
I'm just kind of laughing as you're talking about the story. I wasn't as smart as your parents at first. So my youngest, we called him a picketarian. He was so picky. And I remember my husband and I when he was younger, and we just thought he had to have vegetables every meal, and we just made our kids eat vegetables. And I remember it would just be the longest dinner, like trying to get him to eat his vegetables, and we'd be sitting at the table forever and counting and doing all the things. And I had this aha one day where I'm like, me trying to get Caden to eat vegetables is ruining our relationship. And
Mhm.
it just wasn't worth it anymore. And you know what? I stopped making him eat his vegetables and I stopped making so much noise around food because I really was making so much noise around food. Like, I mean, just, making it into such a big deal. And I will tell you, he's 21 now. And every week he's in Louisiana right now. And every week he tells me different things he's eating. And I'm amazed. And guess what? He's learning to like food and he's trying new things. And I just needed to get out of the way and just be more worried about the things that mattered most. And that was, first of all, me modeling healthy behaviors with food and exercise. And second is remembering the relationship with him was more important than what food he ate and didn't eat. And once I got rid of the brain drama around food and I stopped making a big deal out of him drinking energy drinks or him not eating vegetables, it's just going to take care of itself and he's going to figure it out. And he is, right? So
Yeah.
good.
Oh, I love that you said, he figured that out and you're kind of in awe, right? There really are some things that you're like, you know what? That can be my teen's problem. Like they I've modeled the best I can. I have a meal here, right? But that really is on them. And I love that word of noise, right? Sometimes there's some noise that we don't have to have. And it's just like turning down that volume and going, you know what? I'm not a bad mom because my kid's not eating his vegetables. I'm not a bad mom because my teen wants to stay up all night, right? Like it's okay. And we can quiet that noise. So I love that, Cherie. Okay, well, we hope that this helps you out, and we hope that you will join us in our next episode where we talk about how to help your teen when they are overwhelmed. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Teens with Cheree Murdock and Abbi Winslow. If you are looking for more tips to help your teenager, here's where you can find us. You can find Cheree Murdock on Instagram at Cheree Murdock Coaching or on her website, ChereeMurdock.com. You can find me, Abbi, on Instagram as Abbi Winslow or on my website, AbbiWinslow.com. Please rate and review our podcast and share with a fellow parent. Thanks for listening.